When I first got Buzz Driver, I just said to myself, alright, one awful PC games review coming up. But once playing it, I really couldn't, in good conscience, call it a bad PC simulator. There are some bad parts about this simulator. One of them is the actual turning. You're gonna notice right away the bus turns way too slowly. It's horrible when you have to turn. But it feels responsive. It feels like that's exactly how a real gigantic piece of machinery would actually turn. And the turning, while slow and cumbersome, it never gets really frustrating. I mean, I've seen thousands, maybe tens of thousands of buses in my life, and the way they turn in this game, it looks like the same way they turn in real life. It's a bit slower than your regular passenger car, but it's manageable. Also, one thing about this driving simulator is you can actually stay in the lanes. It's not really easy. I mean, it does take effort, especially because I'm using the keyboard and not a wheel. But it's in no way as bad as some of the other really horrible driving simulators we've played, where the turning was horrible, but you couldn't actually stay in the lanes. So you kept crashing into everything. The cars, the sidewalks, the people, if a simulator had people in them. In this game, the driving is actually manageable, and dare I say, often fun. Now, I think another reason that driving in this game is manageable is simply because you're driving a bus and you're going pretty slowly. Even at your fastest speed, you're still going pretty slowly. So it's easy to see things coming from far away. Another really awful thing about the simulator is the animation of the people getting in and out of your bus. It doesn't exist. The people just stand there, and then there's a number that tells you people are getting in and out, but there's no actual animation. I don't get that. I mean, they had enough time to program these big sprawling cities with different seasons, different weathers. I mean, even the bus windows have a lot of effort put into them in terms of graphics. I really don't know why they couldn't put in some graphics of people actually walking in and out. I mean, they already have the models for the people. They're just standing there like mannequins. And you know what? To be honest, there is a third thing that kind of bugs me about this game. You get penalties for breaking laws or just not driving the bus well. But a lot of times, you get the same penalty for like crashing into something as you do for making a kind of bad turn or stopping a little too abruptly. It's almost unfair. It's like you crash into something and you cause the bus thousands of dollars of damage, and then you stop the bus a little too fast maybe, and it's minus 100 points for both of those infractions. So yeah, those are the bad parts of this game, but let me talk about the great parts of this game. Like I already said, the driving is manageable and can be really fun sometimes. And one of the reasons for this is all the variety in the levels. There's a ton of different levels. There's a ton of different places to drive in these cities. There's a ton of different weather variables, and there's a ton of different tiers. So the levels get progressively harder, the levels get different, there's different weathers, so you gotta account for sludge or rain or just a clear sunny day. There's just a lot of different variety. You never get bored of the scenery in the game, and I love that about this simulator. If you were just driving through a drab, same old city on every level, I could easily call this a bad game, but because the scenery is always changing, because the developers put a lot of effort into making this game as filled with variety as humanly possible for an indie game such as this, I am thoroughly impressed. Now, the graphics in this game are not revolutionary. This could easily be a game from the PS2 generation, but the graphics are good. There's not a lot of detail in them, but all the levels are beautiful. It feels very homely when you're driving the bus through sleet on a cold night. It feels really nice driving around a residential area with a lot of trees, driving past an airport, driving around a big city. All of it really feels great, and that's what makes the driving in this game fun. Not so much the actual driving, which could be a bit slow and cumbersome at times, but the fact that you're driving through different, constantly changing, and most importantly, beautiful city and country sceneries. There's also a variety of different buses, and all the buses handle differently. Sometimes there's double-decker buses, which obviously are slower. Sometimes there's shorter, stockier buses, which can go faster and are easier to maneuver. Sometimes there's longer buses, which you have to be more careful when you're turning. And you have to take all these things into account, just like taking weather into account. After everything is said and done, Bus Driver is probably the best indie-developed simulator I ever played. It is a complete breath of fresh air when you compare it to the utter garbage that we've seen come out of the simulation subgenre in the past few years. Bus Driver gets an official Stan Birdman rating of a 7.9 out of 10. Thanks for watching. Goodbye, my friends. Hail to the bus driver. The bus driver man.